Topic. We were joined by by former Navy pilot and Republican Congressman from California, Mike Garcia. Congressman, thank you for joining us.
Good to see you. Thanks for having me.
Well, I was going to get to this last, but let me get to it first because you tweeted that this vaccine is just the tip of the iceberg as far as recruitment and retention in the military goes. So what do you mean by that?
Yeah, there's a lot of issues that are compounding right now. We've basically gotten ourselves into a point where we were realizing the perfect storm relative to retention and recruitment. You know, I served in the military, and most folks will enlist in the military despite the low pay. I don't think that the average American knows that when you enlist, you start off at just $21,000 a year, which is the equivalent of about $12 per hour. And you really actually don't get above what most consider to be the national minimum wage now, $15 an hour, until you've been in for 4 years. So you go in eyes wide open that you're not making a lot of money. You go in eyes wide open that you're going to be on several deployments. The quality of life maybe isn't as good as it is in other private sector jobs. But really what you're expecting is leadership. What you're expecting is a chain of command that takes care of you, a chain of command that looks out after you, and isn't using you as a pawn for fitness reports or some other metric that they're tracking. And so when you start layering on things like what we have seen with the fallout of Afghanistan, when you start layering on things with the fallout of these vaccine mandates, it really compels people who were on the fence about staying in or re-upping their enlistment to get out. And it really doesn't inspire folks to want to join the military if they weren't already 100% convinced. So unfortunately, now we are realizing that we have in some branches like the Army, we're missing our recruitment quotas by 25%. And we have to do something to address the quality of life and the pay, but also the leadership in our ranks right now, so that our troops want to stay in and that folks are inspired to join the military.
Well, Congressman, let me ask you this, though. How quickly after the bill is passed will this actually, the vax mandate actually go into effect or be taken out of effect? I guess I should ask.
Yeah, we're waiting to see the fine print on when it takes effect. It should be immediately. Like you said in the previous report, this version unfortunately doesn't allow for back pay compensation or people to be reinstated, either re-enlisted or recommissioned if they were officers. So we need to work on that. But I do want to commend Kevin McCarthy for this. This was something that a lot of us were jumping up and down. And when you're in the minority in the House or in the Senate, you feel powerless on some of these issues when you know it's absolutely degrading our nation's security, degrading the quality of lives of our troops. But he did have the courage to just frankly walk into the White House and tell the president that he needs to change this. And ironically, the president's response was, well, this is what the military wanted to do. And it's almost like we have to remind the commander in chief that he is actually in charge of the military and he needs to actually lead.
But Congressman, what of that? Because Lloyd Austin did say that he wants this to stay in place. So I realize that you did serve, but the people that are in charge of the defense want it to stick around, and you are a politician now. You're out of the service.
Yeah, and this is the lack of self-awareness. When you talk to the troops and the personnel, and when you hear from these people, a lot of these folks are my constituents, folks we've sent to the military academies who have enlisted from my district. It's not a large percentage of them, but it's enough of a percentage to make a difference for us to miss our quota in terms of recruitment and retention. And so I think Secretary of Austin, as well as the Commandant of the Marine Corps, Berger, they're not listening. And frankly, when you're around the Secretary of Defense or the Commandant, if you're an E4, you're not going to necessarily be vociferous on these issues like you would among your shipmates or your peers. And so they do need to pay attention to the data. We're seeing the data. The data is not lying to us. We are having a problem inspiring and recruiting and retaining and inspiring people towards a propensity to serve in our military. And we've got to address these issues. You know, Secretary Austin gave a speech at the Reagan Defense Forum this last weekend, and he talked about technologies, research and development, pivoting to Asia, what's going on in Ukraine, industrial base. But he never once mentioned what we are doing for our troops. He didn't talk about pay. He didn't talk about housing allowance, quality of life, slowing down the operational tempo. He didn't mention, obviously, the vaccine.
It sounds like, Congressman, there are a lot of things to fix. At least this vaccine mandate, from your perspective, is something that will be fixed soon if they can pass that bill. So, Congressman Mike Garcia from California, thank you for joining us.